listening to the Cricket Podcast.
I think it was a disgraceful performance, and I think it should never be permitted to happen again.
That is very good.
I'm absolutely distraught, Ross. I should have said Matthew. Sorry, I should say Matthew, because for those people who are listening on podcasts on Spotify or Apple or whatever other podcast providers are probably available, Ross in the video is looking rather like Matthew Wade. So after having to endure that cameo, was better than a cameo, wasn't it, for Matthew Wade? I've now got to look at someone who resembles him for the next 45 minutes as well.
Well, that's the.
I'm actually pretty gutted. I'm pretty gutted because I was actually more invested in Pakistan winning, and I think I was even yesterday. So
yeah, it's all a bit upsetting, really, isn't it? Like the whole point of this show has always been around trying to figure out what is almost like the best way or the optimal way to play T20 cricket. And Jack at the start, and I hate Jack when he's almost slightly right, but he said around for this Australian lineup, they bat so deep that just in case that something comes off, like in this kind of scenario, maybe a couple of them will come off and it'll work in their favour. And today you saw that happen. But is this, Dan, from your point of view, a Australia win, or is this one of the biggest bottles, if not the biggest bottle of all time, from Pakistan, and Hasan Ali's in the old Klusner, Alan Donald kind of bit?
I think it's a bit of both, really. I mean, obviously you have to give Wade enormous credit for his innings, and though regardless of the drop, you got to say that the way he hit them 3 back-to-back sixes off Shaheen, who's a world-class bowler, was incredible in that final over. And that's a Shaheen, don't forget, who'd gone for like less than 6 and over in his first 3 overs. I don't think there's any doubt he's the best left-arm pacer in the world as well. So credit to Wade, he made the most of his opportunity. But yeah, I think Hasan Ali is going to be having nightmares like that for a long while.
So let's start at the top of the innings, because, I mean, opening up, Australia won the toss. They set in... They set Pakistan, go and set this total. And, I mean, a lot of the criticism of this World Cup has been if you chase, you win. That's obviously been proved again today, which is, again, really annoying. But Pakistan, I thought it kind of suited them. As much as that sounds a little bit ridiculous, I thought, actually, they could control the game. Their approach to the power play, they kind of, Babar and Rizwan actually get to do what they needed to do, and they needed to power on. So I thought, actually, it worked in Pakistan's favour. Where was your head at, Dan?
I thought that whoever batted first, it was imperative that they had to show the intent to get 180 plus, basically. Like, they had to give themselves a decent chance of doing that. At one point, I think it was looking unlikely that they would do so, with Azam chewing up a few and Rizwan doing similar at the other end, and then Zaman struggling a little bit initially, but they're an absolute flourish in the second half of their innings, which has been quite typical of the Pakistan style over this tournament, was enough to get them to 176. Which I said 180 plus. I think 176. I think they would have taken before the start, and I made them pretty solid favourites at half time with their bowling attack as well. I thought they would have it in their locker to defend that against the Australian batting group, who I think are fairly mediocre in general.
Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement with you there, mate. And I think it was kind of interesting. I thought that Pakistan actually showed a little bit more intent in the power play, and I thought they actually came out of it pretty well. But it was that kind of 6-10 where they just didn't kick on at all, really. Like, I was used to kind of going, right, take a bit more risks, and they were trying to find second gear, but they just couldn't get into it, could they, at all? And even when Zaman came out, he didn't really look at the races at the start of it. I was just like, I was worried then.
Yeah, and also it was really weird when I know it's not something amount of difference, but it was like 3 balls. But when Asif Ali got out, and then Shoaib Malik and Hafiz only placed 3 balls between them, but they were the wrong batters to put in at that point in time. I would have just stuck Hasan Ali and just go and give it a whack. because this guy's got a higher boundary percentage than a lot of them. And now we're talking about fine margins, of course, and small things. But if you're a cricket team and you're structuring well with good strategy, you've got to look at every single possible 1% that you can ask to achieve. And I don't think that Pakistan did that there. I mean, sort of, like I said, it's a small criticism, but yeah, it's just small things. Like I said, all these 1%ers that they do add up, and whether that's picking the right batter to come in at the right time, or matchups, or anything like that. All these things do add up over the course of time. You can save one run here, you can save one run there. By the end of the innings, it's 10 runs, and that's often a big difference between the two teams in a T20 match.
Yeah. How do you think Zampa did? So when we talk about spin bowling, Dan, we kind of in that position where wrist spin is gold dust, right? I think a good wrist spinner can cause all kinds of trouble. And this time round, Zampa, I thought, did a pretty good job at suffocating. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I think he's been very, very good all tournament, and it's interesting that the two players who although they never actually played for Phoenix so far, were the ones we recruited 2 years ago in the draft, have been probably their star players, or the better players for their better bowlers, at least for their countries so far. So give myself a little pat on the back there.
That's always the good thing to do, Dan. I think I like it. Rizwan managed to get over 1,000 runs in the calendar year. That's some player, right?
Yeah. It's nice. I'm not a big one for milestones, though. And I like,
it's just like, no, it's just my birthday today. I don't really like milestones. Forget it. You're more. I've survived 11,000 days on this planet kind of guy, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, Ross, we talk about it's a lot more than 11,000. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't, but it is. The thing is, like, we talk about the orange cap in the IPL. And like these milestones are just stupid, basically. I mean, like you score 600 runs, but it's like a strike rate of 115 or 120. You probably cost your team. All these achievements should be disregarded unless you get minimum strike at 130.
Agreed. My internet is absolutely terrible, so apologies to those people. This is why Max and Jack normally host, so I can only apologise for that. Hopefully it will be okay.
You got budget system.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Move to a new flat, and then the only provider anywhere nearby might as well be this old man who is just going, "Do you fancy doing some dial-up?" And that's about it. So it's completely frustrating.
It looks like nice backdrop. I like your blinds.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm going to do this is the interior design podcast very shortly.
Awesome.
I thought what was good to see is kind of Zaman at least coming to his own. Some of the sixes that were hit in that game, off of let's not beat around it. Like Stark is a great bowler, Cummins is a high level bowler, Hazelwood's a high level bowler. Maybe not in T20 cricket, so to speak. You're not going to put them in every single one of your World 11s, but these are good bowlers, and they were getting hit into the third tier. That's a pretty serious flex to be able to have.
Yeah, and I was saying last week on one of the pods we did. It's amazing, isn't it? When you have intent, what happens? Amazing. Suddenly, these pitches don't look too bad after all. It's incredible that as soon as these teams actually don't need to start scoring runs, pitches don't look too bad.
Yeah, and that was the bit for me in terms of just the intent that we've talked about. And a lot of people, we like talking about intent, so let's do it again.
So I got blocked. I had to block someone on Twitter earlier for calling me a moron about things like this.
Well, my view on intent is it's an approach. Intent isn't a result. And everyone, yes. I think that's the difference. People just say, "Where's your intent now, boys? Haven't gone for any boundaries." It's just but intent is doing your best to be positive. Is to try to hit the boundaries. That is intent. Intent doesn't actually exist as a thing. It's a way of life.
Yeah, it's a byproduct of an aggressive mentality, and then the execution to pull off that aggressive mentality. And players can fall short in one way or the other, but if you've got the aggressive mentality and you haven't got the quality to do it, I can't argue with you. I'm not gonna criticize you. If you're not good enough, you're not good enough. That's fair enough. Mm-hmm. It's when you have these guys and they're not good enough and they just nerdle it around for 30 or 25 or in Lendl Simmons' case 16 or 35, and then that's where there is a massive problem. Mm-hmm. That's a huge problem, and we talk about guys like Virat Kohli hitting like 4 or 5% less boundary percentage than the average in the IPL. Now that's a lack of intent.
Yeah.
So he's got the quality, but he doesn't have the aggressive mentality. And I think that's where you talk about KL Rahul being a ball eater a lot of the time, and that's a similar thing. We know he's got the quality, but he doesn't always have that aggressive intent, aggressive mentality to create that final kind of overall intent, if you like.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that brings us nicely to the Australian innings, I think.
I'll tell you what, though. We're talking about Pakistan and Australia. We're still managed to talk about Kohli and KL Rahul.
I didn't bring it up, so I'm scot-free. So I thought that actually their total was good. Again, like yesterday in the England game, I thought it was a slight advantage to Pakistan. Although it was runs on the board, and regardless of there being kind of the chase kind of mentality, everyone wins when you're chasing in the UAE, I thought it was an okay target.
Yeah, it was okay. It was decent. As I said, I had Pakistan favourites at half time. I didn't really have England as favourites at half time. I had some question marks over the New Zealand batting group, but I felt England maybe left 15 out there yesterday. I mean, like, a cricket team pretty much should never be 167 for 4 in 20 overs. That kind of indicates that you've left resources out there. And when you've got a guy like Malan, who is, I think we'd all agree, is the guy with the lowest strike rate ceiling in the group, facing 30% of your balls, and Liam Livingstone, who probably has one of the highest ceilings in that respect. He got out right at the end, but he only faced 10 balls. Like, he had never had the opportunity to face even half the amount of balls that Malan faced. Then that's a structural issue. The fact that you've got a specialist batter at number 7 and he didn't even face the ball suggests that you left resources on the table.
Yeah,
and I think that England did leave 15 short yesterday. Pakistan, though, because I rate Pakistan's bowlers better than I rate England's bowlers, I thought that it was advantage Pakistan. And I don't really rate Australia's batters, most of them. Obviously, I rate Maxwell. Stoinis is okay. The rest of them are very nonplussed by.
What I'd like to kind of talk about now is the Australian batting, because here chasing this down. This one was a chaseable target, obviously, because they did it. But two, like their lineup here, after the start, they must have been rocked. Like, Shaheen Afridi comes in. Shaheen Afridi kind of comes in, like dismisses Finch the first ball he faces. Finch looked like he was trying to dig a hole. When I'm not sure if anyone's ever put posts in the ground, but he tried to literally put his spade in the ground, dig up and get himself a little hole. He could not have planted his massive spade front foot more than he did. And it was I was celebrating. I don't normally love it, but like that, he is electric, that guy. Like Afridi has got... Good. He's so good. Like, talk about box office. I think Ian Bishop was tweeting saying just like you can pay for to watch the whole game, but your money was worth right there in terms of that kind of just that first over.
He's a bowler I would pay to watch. There's not that many cricketers who I'd pay to watch. He's definitely one.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about David Warner.
Okay, let's do it.
So Dave, he's struggled, isn't he, in the last year? Like, he was back-to-back terrible IPLs. Started to find a bit of form against some of the teams in earlier in the competition.
The whipping boys.
And then sometimes that's what you need, right? Sometimes you need some floaty rubbish to kind of smash around. I thought he was looking pretty good today. It was a bit of swagger about him.
Although he did have his innings inflated by that 6 off for fees.
I was going to get to this, and I was going to get to this. So, there was a couple of lovely shots, and you're just like, okay, David Warner's back. And then old Sandpaper Warner, Mr. Spirit of Cricket, it slipped out of Fees' hand. Do you, A, go, do you know what, guys, it's clearly an error, kind of, but let's just try and call it a dead ball, and everyone kind of re-bowl it, or whatever it's going to be. I think the rule is actually a no ball and just re-bowl it. He decides to move down the track and wallop it for 6. My view, I wouldn't have done that.
No, you would have given the bowler benefit of the doubt.
I think I'd have been just like, he's clearly, obviously not. This guy's a professional cricketer. He's obviously not done it. If it was even in amateur cricket, you need to take some level of pity on what has just been thrown at you, and you need to be like, okay, mate. But he there was no remorse, nothing. He started laughing at the end of it.
No remorse. Yeah. It was pretty incredible, really, wasn't it? I mean, I was like, I probably haven't seen that since I was about 6.
Yeah, I was just, I don't know. Let's see what. So in the chat, let us know if you were a fan of David Warner's hitting Hafiz for 6 or not. But it didn't really sit too right with me. Hopi, on the other hand, was just like, yeah, he should have hit it even further. So yeah, but yeah, I thought Warner was looking good. And
the ball was back, I thought, to some extent.
Yeah, and but what we've talked about before, the importance of batting in partnerships and covering one another's weaknesses off. Mitch Marsh's weakness is obvious against any type of spin bowling. I think even I could come on and bowl spin and probably get Mitch Marsh out. But Dave Warner, he took on Ahmad Wasim, and we hadn't really seen too many teams actually try to do that in the power play.
Now, Ahmad Wasim's an interesting one because, like, instinctively that should be a reasonable matchup for Warner against left arm spinner. But I've got this. Okay, so here's the thing. Right? Warner is now 35. He's struggled a lot. Obviously, he hasn't struggled today. He's played pretty decent innings.
Yeah.
I've got a theory where he might end up doing like a Chris Gale kind of thing and coming in at like 3 or 4 over the next couple of years as he sort of ekes out the rest of his career.
Okay.
And maybe like an entry point would be like 5th over, 6th over, where he comes on just before the spinners tend to come on. I think he could be like a matchup shield for a lot of the Australian players. Like, you know, if he's batting at one end, maybe they're more reticent to bowl left arm spin, knowing that Mitch Marsh is at the other end or something like that. You know.
Yeah.
But you know, it'd be interesting to see if that develops. I've got a feeling now. I think that he's not a great opener, but when spin comes on early, that seems to be when he gets his best performances in.
Fair. It'll be interesting to see next year, right? If the World Cup's in Australia, that's where it is next year, isn't it?
Yeah.
So bouncy decks, kind of fast bowling, all that kind of stuff. Are teams going to revert to actually bowling spin in the power play as a whole? Like the condition. That's what I love about T20 cricket. The conditions, especially like in that bit, that all of the strategies are completely just like, right, what are we going to do here? So I really enjoy that. I wouldn't mind seeing David Warner kind of do that. This team though just frustrates me because everything about them just frustrates me.
I know.
And Mitch Marsh, everybody knows he's not very good against spin bowling, and I know David Warner's pretty good against spin bowling. But surely the answer wasn't to feed him shit long hops that you could just smash the fence. He hit like 20 odd in like a matter of no time because he just got fed into him. What were they thinking there, Dan?
I've got no idea, and this is where I think that a lot of teams, they don't have great plans. So yeah, obviously I missed the chance to talk about England yesterday. I think that England do have pretty good plans generally. They didn't quite work out very well yesterday. I think you said that the supercomputer had short-circuited at one point, but they generally have quite good plans. Now, what I've seen a bit in this World Cup is I don't. There's a few think tanks I think who are quite iffy in terms of their plans. Certainly more iffy than you might get at franchise level. So I see better strategies generally in the Blast than I would in the World Cup.
Yeah.
On a general basis, and I think maybe Pakistan didn't get their matchups right necessarily today so much.
Fair. I'm just going to remind everyone there's about 250 people watching this. So, 1, thank you for tuning in. 2, thank you for continuing to tune in after my technical embarrassment at the start of play. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, follow us at The Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Go on Patreon if you want to support us and get a load of data for the IPL. So you can be like Dan. I called him a budding analyst yesterday by accident, and he immediately called me out on it when we joined. So, so if you want to be like Dan...
This budding analyst going to Dubai tomorrow.
Yeah. Perfect.
I haven't even packed yet. Are you a late packer, Ross?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Mate, I've got a driver pick him up at 7 a.m. tomorrow, and I haven't even started packing.
That's fine. You got age. You got 12, 13 hours. You're fine. So yeah, as I said, like this video. Thank you for tuning in. Right, let's talk about the rest of the innings. So When it came to Mitch Marsh, he got out to Shadab Khan, which was completely unsurprising, wasn't it? Straight up in the air. Then it came to Hafiz, as we already said. Warner smashed him to bits. But Steve Smith came out. And Steve Smith being in this team is, one, an insult to everyone who likes T20 cricket. Two, it's probably an insult to every Australian who's kind of watching, because Steve Smith just shouldn't be in this side. And what I did enjoy on Twitter was a guy with his tag called Banyal Durja called his innings a match-winning innings because Steve Smith got himself out. And actually, I agree with him. I completely agree. Like, if Steve Smith would have been there, the whole point in Steve Smith is being the glue, nudging and nurdling around, and as you say, hitting one of those 30 balls, 30 runs kind of innings. And it's pointless. And here, he kind of came out, tried to do a slog sweep, was out straight away. I think that was the best thing that could have possibly happened for Australia today.
Well, it's interesting because I know you call him Runnable Smithy, and now his strike rate is 98 for this tournament. So we're pretty nice.
Under Runnable Smithy.
Yeah, we might have to start changing his nickname. Yeah, I don't get the point of him in this team. Maxwell's had a bad tournament, but there's a clear point to having him in this team.
Yeah,
Smith, no point.
Yeah,
absolutely no point.
I mean,
what does he bring? What does he add to this Australian team?
Yeah, I'm not sure, right? I'm really not sure. Like they think he's the in case it all goes wrong fixer. But it's T20 cricket. Like getting we've talked before around getting 70 runs, being all out for 70 and getting 120. There's actually no difference because you're going to lose anyway.
Yeah, it's nuts. So like, what are you saying? Like, you're 20 for 3 in the power play. Oh, let's bring in Smithy to play 30 or 30 or 40 or 40. Well, it's going to get you to 100. Oh, congrats. It's going to get you nowhere.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
It just frustrates me. And as you say, Glenn Maxwell has had a bad tournament, but at the same time, you know what we talk about, the ceiling. He's got such a high ceiling to take some of this down, right?
Yeah, and he plays such a high volatility role as well that these like runs and failures should be accepted.
Exactly. So I think that was probably a good thing for them. And then when Stoinis and Wade were at the crease, like Shadab Khan was causing all kinds of trouble. Like Shadab Khan comes away with his head held high in this. He's bowled 4 overs, 4 for 26. That is an unbelievably good performance for any bowler in a World Cup semi-final. And he's going off on the losing side. Dan, that just seems a bit unfair to me.
Yeah, he was great, and it was interesting because, to be honest with you, a few months ago, I probably had quite big reservations about Shadab Khan, the leg spinner at the top level, and I think in the PSL to some extent, he's kind of almost turned himself into a batting all rounder, if you like, and maybe not even a regular reliable bowler, and he's come back in this tournament and been very, very good. So good to see him kind of get his mojo back with the ball for sure.
Yeah. One man who didn't have any mojo today, and I think may have vomited on the field. His performance was certainly vomit-worthy, was Hasan Ali.
Yeah.
There's some times where you sit on a podcast and you're kind of a little keyboard warrior and kind of say someone's shit, someone's good, whatever. Hasan Ali today was as bad as Chris Jordan was yesterday? Is that fair?
No, I thought him was worse. You know what though? Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, I rate Hasan Ali.
Mm-hmm.
I actually like him. I think he's a very good player. I think in T20 cricket, he's an asset. So, like on a general basis, obviously, like you're going to have the short-termist people who are like, "Oh, he's terrible." Well, he's not terrible. He's actually incredibly good when used in the right role. I'm not sure he's a death bowler.
Yeah.
And also, his batting has been completely underused by Pakistan in this tournament. His batting is actually, for a lower order hitter, is as good as you'll ever find, really. So, yeah, for like an 8 or something like that. So as a package, he's a very, very good package.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. And I think that he's actually, I would suggest that from my analysis at least, he's a better bowler than Chris Jordan is, generally a better player, better all-round package. Like Jordan can field, yeah, that's nice. He might save 2 runs in innings. But Hasan Ali is a far better batter, and I think he's a better bowler as well. So yeah, I actually back Hasan Ali. I said on Twitter yesterday, I think that playing him was the right decision, even though he's had a tough tournament so far.
Yeah.
I stand by that. I absolutely stand by that. I'm not going to be changing my mind over the 1 or 2 or 3 performances. No, absolutely no chance. He's someone that I rate highly, and players do have bad days. They do have bad tournaments, and you have to kind of accept that happens. I mean, you show me a player who hasn't had a bad game or a bad tournament or a bad few weeks. Every player has it. Every single player has it. The key is to pick players who have less bad weeks or bad tournaments than average,
Yeah.
And he's been a superstar in domestic cricket in Pakistan for a long time. So, bad days happen, unfortunately. That's sport.
It was unfortunate that the crowd, the catch that would have at least taken the game to the final over. Not sure it would have won it for Pakistan, but Matthew Wade in the penultimate over clipped it off his legs into the night sky. Hasan Ali came running round, and they're not easy catches when you're kind of running full pelt and you're kind of out here. Like, actually, sometimes it's a bit challenging. As an elite level cricketer, playing in a World Cup semi-final, I'm going to put you as an elite level cricketer for this argument. Should be taking that.
Yeah, he'll be having nightmares about that. Definitely, like I said earlier, but
it happens. But drop catches, it hasn't dropped it on purpose. Yeah, it hasn't dropped it on purpose. It ultimately then Matthew Wade was just like, absolute result, and then plays. He's Matthew Wade then completely telegraphs, and I don't like Matthew Wade. He seems like one of those guys behind the stumps. Like, the fact that every time he gets the ball, he feigns to put the ball next to the stumps and take the bails off. Have you noticed this? Every single time the ball comes into him, he goes like that. It's like a child is learning how to be a wicketkeeper, and he's feigning it every time.
Do you know what? Right, when I was about 8 or 9 years old, I started keeping, and I used to do that.
Yeah,
I actually used to do that.
Exactly.
I used to about every time I took the ball behind the stumps, I took the bails off every single time.
Don't get me wrong. If you're in training and it's all about that thing in your head of being like, no, I'm visualising, this is what I'm going to do. Don't do it. You're in a T20, mate. You don't need to be visualising it. Just get the ball and get on with it. But I tell you what, fair play to you, Matt Wade. Like, going down, telegraphing that Afridi's going to go for the Yorker, which is one of his best deliveries. Like, he's backing his own percentages, and then nailing not once but twice the scoop shot. I mean, it was unbelievable.
I thought Wade telegraphed the scoop as well, to be fair. But yeah, it was unbelievable, like you say.
Yeah, it's so well executed.
And I think in this tournament as well, we haven't seen as much 360-degree hitting as I would have expected. So, as an analyst, a budding analyst maybe, who works in the blast as well, I noticed that this year there was a real increase in 360-degree hitting. There was so much more sort of attempted ramps and scoops and stuff like that than there previously was. And I put it down a bit to, well, obviously it's the extra intent level, but also in terms of the fact that I felt that there was a lot of batters who were kind of pushing for that wild card slot for the 100, and that made them play more aggressively, knowing that was what was gonna put them in the team's sort of thought plans maybe. But I haven't seen it that much in this World Cup. Certainly not to that extent, at least. Yeah. And I think again that's probably kind of that lack of intent. And obviously Wade pulled that off, and fair play to him. It was an epic finish, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. And that was the thing. Like, I was talking about the momentum yesterday with Jack. But again,
don't get me started on that.
I know, I love it. I'm just going to say, Addy, thank you ever so much for your super chat, alongside Anaru, who's also done it. So thank you very much for those. If you've got any questions, please do answer, because we will answer them later on in the show. I just think it's a terrible shame that Australia have got through. I think their whole approach to T20 cricket is old school. I think they kind of seem like they don't really care about it. They kind of, it's not even like they're deliberately going with a completely different mantra. They just don't. It's like they almost just don't like the game, and it's like, yeah, we're still this good, and it's so annoying they're at the final.
Yeah, I agree. I look at them as a bit of an anti-cricket team. I wouldn't pay to watch this Australian team. I'm telling you right now. Maybe Glenn Maxwell I'd pay to watch, and a couple of the bowlers, but the top 7 I wouldn't pay to watch.
Yeah,
no chance. Absolutely no chance. And the thing is, right, here's the thing. They got through the group stages, which, was really reasonably expected to start with.
Yeah.
Let's say England were 60-40 favourites over New Zealand, and the same for Pakistan over Australia before the toss in both games, right? If you're 60-40 in 2 knockout matches, you're only 36% to win the tournament. You're still massive underdogs to win the tournament, even though you're favourites in both matches. If you're 40-60 in 2 matches, you've got 16% chance to win a tournament. So 16% of chance, 16% of the time, the worst team will win the tournament from that stage. That is if Australia win this tournament, let me tell you, it is not a vindication of their methods. But they'll probably take it as a vindication of their methods, which is going to set them back another 5 years.
Yeah, and that's Australia, as we well know, have got a pretty good dearth of talent. They've got a pretty good kind of production line, and it's just a little bit. It stings a little bit. However,
I don't like it.
What it does mean, Dan, is that we're going to have a hell of a lot of New Zealand fans in England on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm 100% supporting New Zealand from my hotel quarantine, which I'm just hoping that the TV in the hotel's got the game.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. But so how do you think that's going to go? So big final, there's a culmination of the World Cup, the Antipodean rivalry between the two. Again, it's unbelievable, right? And playing in. And I think it's a testament to the teams that playing in the UAE, as actually they've managed to get there, right? A lot of analysts before, or pundits maybe, would just they're going to turn more. It's going to be really difficult. Bangladesh could be a surprise package. Sri Lanka could be a surprise package. I mean, we never said there would be a fucking surprise package. No, not a chance. But you know what I mean? There was that bit, and here you go. You've got 2 teams who they don't have the best spinners. Zampa's a decent spinner. Ishodi and Santner aren't the elite spinners, and yet here they are. It's the pace bowling lineups with not a solid batting lineup, but kind of a relatively conservative batting lineup that's got a couple of wild cards in there. Like Neesham, absolute wild card. I
think that's exactly how I describe them. Actually, both teams, they're conservative batting lineups with 1 or 2 wild cards. Yeah. That is it. And okay. So here's the thing, right? I don't like the way either team play T20 cricket, to be quite honest with you. But I want New Zealand to win because they're a team with less resources. They're a team who, because they're a much smaller country than Australia, they've got less players, they've got less of a talent pool. You can forgive them for that playing style because that might be what they're limited to. Australia, no. I grew up loving cricket from a really young age. I can remember when I was, 7 or 8 years old, when I wasn't hitting stumps all the time as a wicketkeeper. I was listening to commentary, and I used to listen to whole days of commentary. Right.
I'm just gonna be Matthew Wade for the rest of the thing. Just like, well done, mate.
Well, you got the touch. You got the touch. So you got to start. Yeah. I was listening to whole days of commentary, right? And Australia used to grind England into the ground. It was embarrassing. I can remember routinely listening to whole day after day after day after day of Test match commentary, and it would be Australia 650 for 4 declared and stuff like that, and just ruthless, just full of intent. They would play positive cricket. I don't see this Australia team playing positive cricket. I see them playing negative cricket and getting lucky.
Yeah, it's kind of like Tony Pulis football, isn't it? It's kind of such. You know what?
That's such a good analogy.
Yeah, we're part of the bus, kind of. Do you know what? We'll defend a 1-0 win.
Yeah, this is I don't know. Pulis is Stoke. against which is Australia, against Vinnie Jones's Wimbledon back in the 90s. It's the underdogs, the plucky underdogs.
But New Zealand, but New Zealand they're just not these underdogs anymore, are they? New Zealand are the all-format team in the world. As much as it pains us to say it, Dan,
they're not the best team, are they? Really, let's face facts. You can win titles and stuff, but you're not the best team just because. If it's a Premier League or whatever, most of the time, the vast majority of the time, you say the team who wins the title after 38 games, they're the best team, and most of the time there wouldn't be any reasonable argument against it, right? But the FA Cup, you get some random winners, it's not you just okay, so I don't know, let's just say Burnley won the FA Cup. Are they really the best team in the competition? No, of course they're not. They're just the draw opened up for them, or they won on penalties, or they whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's small high variance moments that influence that. They're not the best. The two teams in this final are not the best teams in the comp. No chance.
NDJ in the chat thinks that Australia are Burnley, so that could well be
a podcast, and that's the first time I mentioned him.
Yeah, fair play. Again, my internet
is he better than Runnable Smithy? Well, below Runnable Smithy.
Definitely. And I've not even seen Josh English bat. Again, sorry about my internet. I genuinely can't do anything about it other than shout at the old man in the garden. But I think who do you reckon is going to win in the final? So it's not. We said on the semi-final preview show that we wanted to see a Pakistan-England final, and what we'd probably get is an Australia-New Zealand final. So we've ended up kind of in that position which we didn't really want to be in, but that's life, right? That is life. If you're an England fan, you get used to kind of doing that, and if you're a Spurs fan like you and I, Dan, you get used to disappointment. So we're our comfort zone right now.
This is normal, isn't it? We're in the Europa Conference League.
Yeah, so I'm
the second match of the year.
I'm going to try a bit of reverse psychology here and say that I want Australia to win this final. Nothing would make me happier than Australia winning this final, and then we can kind of go into it, and they'd win the Ashes, they'd win 5-0, and all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's going to happen anyway. I'm seriously, I genuinely think that 5-0 is an extremely realistic possibility.
Well, not for Joe Root's Super Army. So this final, Dan, do you think New Zealand have got enough to get him across the line, or do you think it's going to be Australia who take home the trophy?
Heart says New Zealand, head says Australia.
Yeah, they just have a way of winning games, right? But
Germany, they could be Germany. That's what they are. They're like Germany. Germany get the job done, don't they, in football? They could be. If we're looking at football analogies, they're not Burnley, they're not Stoke, they're Germany.
Yeah, that's true. Someone's pointed out, Parther in the chat said, Ross, Matt Wade and Neesham have two things in common. They have weird tashes and are on super duper form. I don't think they're on super duper form, but they do have brilliant tashes. So maybe when I play football tonight, hence the get up, I'll be on super form as well.
Ross, are you going to keep your tash for when you play cricket in the summer using the Woodstock bat?
No, the Woodstock bat. I mean, it looks like we've lost our sponsorship on here because I've used an old video thing, but we haven't. We are still sponsored by Woodstock Cricket. You can use code TCP25 for 25% off. They are brilliant cricket bats.
Tell the listeners what your strike rate was this year.
Oh God, I have no idea. I'm not like Jack. I don't actually live in the numbers of my glory. So what's the beautiful thing about that is for the last 2 seasons, I've run away with the title. I think I've got more runs than anybody, and yet that never gets mentioned, does it?
There's the trophies on that shelf behind you.
Pardon? Yeah,
where's the trophies?
I'll just put them all. But I'll get the ones that my mum sends me. Number one favourite son or whatever it might be. Dan, when it comes to kind of the tournament in general, because we're obviously going to lose you now because you're off to the T10 leagues. So how do you rate this tournament, actually? Has it delivered for you? Has it kind of underwhelmed? Is there anyone who kind of came into that tournament you're going, do you know what, actually I'm looking forward to seeing them play, and have surprised you or have actually disappointed you?
The one person I really came into the tournament looking forward to watching play was Josh Inglis, and it's been disappointing he hasn't played. A bit of both, really. I watched most matches. A lot of them were just turgid mismatches. but some of them, like today and yesterday, were really good. And England against South Africa was pretty good the other day as well in the last group game. And I think this goes to say, there's 170, 180 chases which go down to the last over and stuff. They're just the best. That's the best form of T20.
Yeah.
A bit the mismatches I don't mind so much because we have to get the associate teams and the smaller nations playing more.
Yep.
But it's when teams like full member teams like Bangladesh are just an absolute shambles. That was a big disappointment for me. India, I mean, they're disappointed that they're not in the last four. And I really think that the biggest mistake that they can make is using these last three thrashings over mediocre teams to kind of paper over the cracks of where they're at with their T20 strategy.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, with the real reason, if Australia win it on Sunday, do you know who you can blame?
Go on.
Chris Gale.
I thought you were going to say Virat.
And West Indies. Their bloody retirement game where they could have chased it down. They could have beaten Australia, and they literally just threw the towel in. I've never seen a more abject performance from a supposed team of champions, and it's just like, come on, West Indies, you're better than that. Look what you've done.
And if you want to read about me talking about the West Indies, I wrote an article the other day on danweston.substack.com. So if you want to see what I think about West Indies, which is not pretty at this point in time, but could be very pretty in the future, have a look at that.
The only other question I had was around Australian spinners. And so Adam Zampa, he's there to stay for the next kind of few years, no doubt. What Ashton Agar, is he the second kind of spinner you want in that side? Is it Schwepson who kind of comes into that 11?
Yeah.
Well, who's the kind of
nowhere near that level?
Yeah.
Nowhere near, absolutely nowhere near. Agar's okay, but I don't really like these kind of players who they're left arm spinners and they bat a little bit, but their batting is pretty low strike rate, low strike rate ceilings. But someone like Liam, he's very similar kind of player to Liam Dawson.
Yeah,
in that respect,
who's warmed the bench for the last two World Cups, been in both squads.
I don't get it. He's not the best left. I'm telling you now. I run a lot of detailed metrics on players. I'm telling you now, Liam Dawson is not the best left arm spinner in this country.
Mm-hmm. It's Dan Weston in his garden.
No, it's not. Well, no, you bowl right arm off spin, don't you?
Yeah, I do right arm off spin. Yeah, right arm off spin. And I've started playing indoor cricket now, and so hitting down the ground is where the big runs come from. So all I'm doing now is bowling medium pace off cutters into the body. Figured it out, mate. Completed indoor cricket.
It's now the game. It's now the game.
It's too easy. Too easy. Budding analyst now, mate. Well, I think we should wrap up. I think I mean, we can't hide our disappointment at Australia there, but it was one hell of a performance from Stoinis, Matthew Wade getting them over the line. Pakistan bottled it big time. Like this, we thought England were terrible yesterday in bottling it. Today, Pakistan took what pretty much should have been a sure thing, meandered in a couple of overs, didn't try and take down Maxwell when he had his second, and just overall, Hasan Ali. He's dropped the World Cup, and that's just unfortunately what happened. So, Dan, have a great time with is it Benga Tigers? Bangor Tigers.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, if you could get me a Faf du Plessis signed shirt, that'd be the dream. Because then I'd wear it all the time. My girlfriend would be like, "Can you take it off? It's our wedding day."
You want it signed? I'll do my best.
That's true love. Dan, thank you ever so much for joining. Where can people find you?
Cheers, man. On Twitter at SAAdvantage and danweston.substack.com.
Brilliant. Here's to the final. We'll see you on Sunday. Thank you ever so much for watching. Come on, New Zealand. Goodness me.
That was so good.